is one thing that all of us have experienced: anger. Anger when we are misunderstood, anger when we are insulted, anger when no one listens to us, anger when we see that life is unfair. Anger is a part of life, a very human emotion, very real, very powerful. But the special thing is that this emotion, if not understood correctly, not transformed, can become a fire that burns all good things, from inner peace to relationships in life. Buddha taught that anger is one of the three poisons: greed, anger, ignorance, the fires that burn the body and mind, blocking the path to liberation. Of those three poisons, anger is the one that erupts most strongly and spreads the fastest, like a fire in the wind. Just a small spark is enough to burn down an entire forest, and just one sentence spoken in anger is enough to destroy a relationship that has been built over many years. Therefore, keeping silent when angry is an important practice. Keeping silent is not suppression, nor is it silence to oppose, but the silence of mindfulness, the silence of a person with wisdom. People who have not studied Buddhism, have not practiced, when angry often say harsh, even poisonous things. Those words spoken in anger often do not reflect the true nature of the speaker, but are just an outburst of emotion. But the listener cannot forget. A word that hurts another person can leave a lifelong wound, while the speaker can forget it right away. That is the tragedy of angry words. Buddha said, anger is like a handful of hot coals that we throw at others. The first person to get burned is ourselves. That saying is very profound. When we are angry, our body and mind are burned. Our heart rate increases, our breathing becomes rapid, our foreheads wrinkle, our words become harsh. And often after such times, we feel tired, exhausted, empty. Anger can make us feel powerful, in control of the situation, but in fact, we are losing control of ourselves. It is anger that controls us, pulling us away like a rushing river. Therefore, keeping silent is the first step to regaining control. When we say nothing, we give ourselves a precious pause. In that pause, we can observe our inner self, recognize our emotions, and breathe. Breathing is very important. Breathing helps us return to the present. When we breathe in and know, I am angry, and breathe out with the awareness, I am taking care of my anger, then at that moment, mindfulness is present. And when there is mindfulness, anger is no longer a monster, but a friend who comes to let us know that something is hurting, that needs to be heard. Being silent when angry is not easy. It requires practice. But once we get used to that practice, we will see that the power of silence is greater than any words. Silence helps us not to hurt others. Silence helps us to maintain our dignity. Silence helps us to avoid consequences. And silence helps us to see clearly the nature of anger. When we are silent, we do not identify ourselves with the momentary emotion. We do not say, I am this anger, but say, this is an emotion that is passing through me. Anger is just a guest, and our consciousness is the house. If we keep reacting to the guest, we will lose the house. Many people say, I cannot be silent when I am angry, I have to speak out to feel better. But the truth is that when we speak out in anger, we are not truly feeling better, but are only adding fuel to the fire. The things we say in anger are never wise, and afterwards, we are the ones who regret and torment ourselves. A practitioner is someone who knows when to stop to see clearly, stop to avoid creating karma, stop to keep a little peace in the storm. When we stop and remain silent, we are not losing to anyone. On the contrary, we are conquering ourselves. There is a saying in the Dhammapada, winning 1,000 armies is not as good as conquering yourself. Of all the inner battles, the battle with anger is the most fierce. It comes very quickly, very strongly, and is very difficult to recognize if we are not mindful. But if we have practiced, have had experience with breathing and awareness, we will see anger as soon as it begins to rise. Like the gatekeeper at the temple, when he sees a stranger coming, he knows and does not let it enter and cause trouble. Keeping silent is not only to protect others from hurtful words, but also to protect ourselves. A practitioner is not afraid of anger, but knows how to face it with wisdom. Know that anger is a manifestation of pain. When people are angry, it means that inside them there is something that has not been understood, has not been embraced. It could be an old wound, a memory that is touched, a repressed hurt. If we don't realize it, we will react like a machine. But if we stop, breathe in, breathe out, we will see clearly, I am being touched by this pain. And when there is that understanding, anger will disappear like clouds in the wind. A person who knows how to keep silent is a person who knows how to keep precepts. In the Noble Eightfold Path, right speech is an important factor. Right speech means speaking the truth, loving words, helpful words, words at the right time. But when you are angry, it is never the right time to speak. Because even if the words are true, if they are spoken from the energy of anger, they will become arrows. They will hurt, defend, and close the listener. On the contrary, if the words are spoken from a compassionate heart, from a heart of understanding, then even if the truth is difficult to hear, the listener will accept it. There are times when we think that silence is cowardly. It is to let others take advantage. But in fact, silence is a virtue. Not everyone can remain silent when attacked or insulted. Most people react instinctively. Retaliate, defend, attack back, but people with wisdom are different. They know that the truth does not need to be shouted loudly, and dignity does not lie in winning or losing, but in knowing how to protect oneself. Once a disciple came to ask the Buddha, "Venerable Sir, if I am falsely accused, should I refute?" The Buddha replied, "If you are falsely accused, reflect. If what they say is true, then thank them for pointing it out to you. If what they say is false, then what do you have to fear?" That answer is enough to show that silence does not mean weakness. It is a solid foundation within yourself, not shaken by external storms. In daily life, there will be times when you encounter injustice, are misunderstood, and are criticized. But what matters is how you react. If you react with anger, you are losing your self-image. If you stay silent, stay calm, and then respond with insight after the anger has subsided, your words will carry 100 times more weight, because they do not come from emotion, but from awareness. There is a great saying, "Silence when angry is a gift you give yourself." That gift is called peace. It is the serenity after a storm. It is a sleep without torment. It is a relationship that has not been broken because of uncontrolled words. How many times in your life have you said something and then regretted it? How many times have you wished you could turn back time so that you would not have said something in anger? But no one can turn back time. You can only turn inward to learn how to stay in the present. The ancients said, "Words do not cost money. Choose your words carefully to please each other." But when angry, people often lose the ability to choose their words. Language is no longer a tool to connect, but a weapon to hurt. In that moment, people forget that each word uttered is an arrow shot from the bow, never to return. Therefore, silence when angry is not only a smart action, but also an ethical action. The person who keeps silent when angry is the person who is practicing the fourth precept of the five precepts. Do not lie, do not speak with two-faced words, do not speak harshly, do not speak frivolously. It is difficult to keep silent when emotions are rising, but that difficulty is also the path to liberation. Because the moments when we overcome our instincts, overcome our impulses, are the moments when we are sowing the seeds for a happy season later. When you say something hurtful, you can satisfy your ego for a moment. But when you hold that word with mindfulness, you are cultivating compassion and wisdom, qualities that will take you further on the path of practice and in your daily life. One of the most beautiful images of a monk is a calm face in the midst of adversity. It is not that they do not feel pain, are not hurt, but that they have learned to transform that pain into understanding. They choose to keep silent to listen to the echoes in their hearts. They do not let the outside world control their inner self. That is true freedom, freedom from the control of emotions, of reactive language, of the ego that wants to show power. You can see when one person raises his voice, the other raises his voice even more. The result is that both are immersed in anger. But if one person keeps silent, that energy does not spread. And often that silence is a mirror reflecting the other person's madness. They can adjust themselves, calm themselves down, and if they don't calm down, at least you're not dragged into that negative energy. You're still pure inside. In Buddhist practice, there's a method called contemplating anger. That is, when you're angry, you don't suppress it, nor do you let it control you. You look at it like you would a crying child. You don't scold the child, nor do you ignore it. You embrace it, comfort it, and care for it with love. The same goes for anger. When it's recognized with mindfulness and embraced with compassion, it will gradually calm down. Silence at that moment is an act of embracing yourself, the gentlest words you can give yourself. Keeping silent doesn't mean never speaking. When the time is right, when the emotions have calmed down, when wisdom is present, you can share what you need to say. But at that time, your words no longer carry the energy of harm. It carries understanding, empathy, and the ability to heal. At that time, words are not to criticize, but to connect, not to hurt, but to clarify and soothe. When you are silent, you do not need to find excuses. Your calm presence is the most powerful response. It shows that you are a person of depth, of inner strength, and people will gradually learn to respect you for that. Because in this noisy world, people who talk a lot are easy to find, but people who know when to be silent are rare. Once, someone asked a Zen master, "How can I not be controlled by anger?" The Zen master just smiled and said, "When you can see anger as a cloud, you will no longer be the angry sky." That answer was as light as a breeze, but contained great wisdom, because anger is not you. It is just a state, a flow of energy. You are the witness. The one who can breathe, stop, not act. When you see that clearly, you will know how to be silent without feeling resentful, silent without feeling defeated. That silence is the inner strength. It helps you rise above the situation, not let yourself be dragged by emotions. It is the wall that prevents the house of the soul from being washed away. And the wonderful thing is that this courage is not given by anyone, but is practiced by you every day, in every little moment. When someone speaks harshly, when something is not to your liking, when you are tired and easily angered. At those times, if you can turn inward, take a breath, smile, and be silent, then you are on the path of a monk. There are also people who keep silent, but that is the silence of suppressed anger. They do not speak, but inside they are still churning, still blaming, still resentful. That silence does not bring peace, but is only a cover for an unhealed inner self. Therefore, it is important not only to keep your mouth shut, but also to keep your mind. The mind is free of resentment, no hatred, no frustration. Only when the mind is quiet, the silence on the mouth is truly meaningful. To do that, we need to practice meditation regularly. Every day, take time to sit with yourself, observe your breath, and recognize your emotions. When we get used to listening to our inner self, we can easily see anger as soon as it starts. And when we see it early, we can stop it in its tracks. Like a fire, if we detect it early, we only need a little water to put it out. But if we let it spread before we act, it may be too late. Silence at first puts out the fire. Speaking up while it is burning only makes things burn bigger. Buddha once said, "Hatred cannot be extinguished by hatred. Only compassion can extinguish hatred." Compassion begins with understanding. Understanding that the other person is also suffering, also being dragged by emotions. Understanding that you yourself have made mistakes, have been angry. Understanding that anger is only temporary, but the consequences of words can last forever. When you have that perspective, your silence will no longer be restraint, but empathy. In close relationships, husband and wife, parents, friends, silence when angry is even more important. Because the closer the person is, the more weight the words carry. A careless sentence said in anger can break a heart, but a loving silence can save a relationship. Silence does not mean not solving the problem, but delaying the reaction to choose a better solution. There was a family that every time they argued, they screamed and cursed each other mercilessly. Until one day, the 5-year-old child said in tears, "Mom and Dad, can you stop screaming?" I'm scared that sentence made both of them fall silent. Sometimes it is the innocence and weakness of others that most clearly reflects our loss of control. If we cannot keep quiet for ourselves, do it for the people we love. Because anger not only hurts us, but also destroys the people around us, the people we are supposed to protect. Remember, you are not forced to react immediately. Life is not a race to respond. Keeping silent when angry is not avoiding, but giving yourself time to look deeper. Maybe after a few minutes, hours, or days, you will see that what made you angry is no longer so important. And when you do choose to speak, your words will be completely different. They will be an expression of understanding, not a whirlwind of emotions. In today's world, where it is so easy for everyone to express their emotions through text messages, social media, and other means of communication, silence becomes even more valuable. An angry post can spread faster than a wildfire, and its consequences are deeper than you think. Think carefully before you write, before you send, before you speak. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Does it hurt anyone? Is it coming from a place of compassion or just a wounded ego? If the answer is uncertain, then silence is the right choice. Staying silent when angry is also a way for you to practice compassion for yourself. When you don't let yourself get angry for too long, don't let yourself get caught up in pointless arguments, you protect your mental and physical health. Modern science has proven that prolonged anger increases the risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, and anxiety disorders. So, silence is also a way to live longer, healthier, and happier. People who can stay silent when angry do so not because they have nothing to say, but because they are mature enough to know that there are things that do not need to be said. There are battles that do not need to be won, there are words that do not need to be said, and there are moments when just a sigh, a smile, a look of understanding is enough to overcome the storm. Buddha said, "Live like a lotus flower, even though it grows in the mud, it is not contaminated by the mud." Being silent when angry is like that lotus flower. Do not let yourself be dragged by emotions. Do not let the mud of anger stain your soul. You still see, still feel, but you do not react like a machine. You live in life, but do not let life drag you away from wisdom. If you practice keeping silent when you are angry, even just a little, just once a day, you have begun to walk the path of mindfulness. Little by little, you will find yourself more peaceful, less regretful, and more loving. No one becomes enlightened in a day of practice, but each moment of silence when angry is a solid step on the path of liberation. And finally, please remember this: keeping silent when angry is an expression of compassion, an act of wisdom, the foundation of a happy life. It does not make you weak, it makes you stronger than anyone else. Because the person who controls his emotions controls his whole life. We cannot avoid all anger in life, but we can choose how to face it. Some people choose to scream, some people choose to let go. And you, if you choose to be silent, you have chosen peace.